At my campaign launch earlier this spring, I was in lots of conversations, gave a speech, but a gentleman came up to me and asked me point blank. He was from, I believe, Little Ridge, and he asked me, "What is your opinion on the amalgamation?" And, that kind of put me on the spot in a way because that is a complicated answer. And here's what I told him. I said, the Greens are always about local decision making. We are opposed to the centralization of governments. And as I've talked about, all of the issues facing us, all the challenges in our riding, there is a sense that a lot of those are resulting from decisions being made up in Fredericton by people who don't live here, by a government with a specific agenda that doesn't see people and consequences and effects of these decisions. And so the Greens are always about local decision making. On the other hand, none of us like to see, and when we gripe a little bit about paying taxes like everybody does, what we're actually saying is we don't like waste. We don't like to think that for every dollar that we pay in taxes, for example, 20 cents of that is completely squandered. Some of the amalgamation, I'd say a lot of the reasoning around it, was to eliminate those redundancies and say we don't want to be paying 2 or 3 times for the same job, the same position, the same department to be doing the same thing. Why am I bringing that up today for the policing issue? What we're talking about here is target number 5 of the 5 things that I will be working on as your MLA. Number 5 is, of course, public safety, and one aspect of that is policing. And the reason why I bring up the amalgamation issue, where the territories of New Brunswick are kind of redrawn to eliminate a lot of those redundancies into what are called service commissions. Okay, so that is, we're in the Regional Service Commission 10. That is what caused a lot of the policing. And you see, when that took over, when that went into effect, that's when we started to feel quite unsafe. And the police services do not enjoy this either. I threw up this map of our huge Regional Service Commission 10, which spans from, Macadam there in the northwest all the way to St. John, city of St. John in the east. And it is our police services that are at the same time saying, listen, we don't have enough officers, enough resources to serve these huge areas that suddenly got redrawn with the amalgamation plan and the redrawing of the Regional Service Commission. So, for example, Fredericton Police, they do have a municipal force, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. Their territory was suddenly redrawn by adding about 50% more territory. And so, of course, the police services there asked the municipality for a lot more money because 4,000 to 5,000 more people were added to their area that they were required to respond to and serve. That is the challenge facing many communities. And this is why I wanted to segue into again today, talking about some of the challenges around getting municipal and regional police forces in these areas where we feel underserviced. Now, I know I hear a lot of this in St. Stephen in our areas saying, hey, RCMP, fine, well-intentioned, but we are paying millions of dollars. And I threw up a graphic yesterday about all the money we're paying. St. Andrews, the mayor is on record as saying they paid $1.1 million last year for 3 officers. But what happens is those officers can get pulled away anywhere. That is the nature of RCMP. They support each other. And so they might go out to St. George, which is a completely different municipality and riding, if they are called upon to do so. And that leaves, of course, nobody in these municipalities while they're out taking other calls. That's why we've got 13 municipalities that have decided to get their own police services. And of course, that costs a fair amount of money. But here's one thing that happened recently, and I just wanted to throw this on last year to give you an idea of numbers. Carlton North, because of the expansion near Woodstock, they border the Maine, and they were feeling completely underserviced and unsafe, which is a feeling familiar to many of us. So they actually put a proposal together, and I wanted you to see what that looks like. So this is from a news article with details on this. It says the high-level proposal Carlton North put forward is a regional force with 16 officers. Carlton North pays 1.9 million for RCMP services. Remember, that's also supplemented by the provincial government and the federal government as well. So if you're wondering about the funding model, the municipalities and the province fund the RCMP between 70 and 90%, and then the federal government completes that with their funding as well. So that's what the pie looks like. Sometimes it's 30, 30, 30. Usually it's 70 to 90%, and then the federal government tops it up. But Heartland pays about 970. So when you add up those numbers, that's about $3 million. And the proposal for the local police services that would just serve Carlton North and the people there, the proposal estimated the new force would cost 2.8 million, and transition costs would be about 700,000. So the 2.8 million would be basically annual fees and the cost of supplementing that force and supporting that force and funding it, and then the 700,000 would be kind of a one-time transition fee. And then it said, that would pay for building renovations, 3 vehicles, and equipment. So it's interesting how we are seeing how in the case of Carlton North and the Heartland area, their force would have been similar to what they're paying. They would have had to foot the cost of the transition and the startup, but they feel like that money would be well spent, and then they would have their own municipal force. Friends, so that was last year, and earlier this year, the Minister of Public Safety, Chris Austin, just basically rejected the proposal outright, shot that down. If you're surprised by that, the province can do that. It's quite a, let's say, patriarchal relationship that the province has with municipalities. For example, municipalities cannot seek their own, they cannot approve their own budgets. The province has to do that. They can't go into debt without requesting from the province. It's quite different from other provinces. But this is an example of where the town wanted to move forward with this, Carlton North, along with Heartland, and the province just rejected it and said no. And they claimed that it would be difficult to recruit local officers, and they claimed that it would be much more expensive in the long run, which means that those municipalities are stuck with the RCMP. So this is an example, again, of I'm not sure what the MLA response was there. As your MLA, I do want to do this kind of work that I'm doing here on video with, like I say, the community leaders and make really good decisions around this. But the New Brunswick Police Association is saying that throwing $20 million more, as the province did toward policing last year, for officers, which we're going to get one over the next 2 years, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's not enough. What we need to do is, and the Police Association has said this, and this is really key, I'll leave you with this, that $20 million that is being thrown into the RCMP pot, when we saw, for example, that it would cost 3 million, let's say 4 million for that municipality to get their own local police force, how many times could we do that over and over, $4 or $5 million to get these local municipal and regional police forces up and running the way the other 13 have, so that citizens, residents of those areas could feel safe. And of course, that would alleviate the pressure increasingly on the RCMP. We as a province have a 20-year contract with the RCMP, started in 2012, ends in 2032. So here it is, 2024, almost 2025 next year. And that's the conversations we need to start having and saying, over the next 5-7 years, do we want to return to that municipal model? That's all the time I have. In fact, I blew by it again. Join me tomorrow where we will talk more about the third kind of police enforcement, which is peace officers, lesser known, but very important for you to know as well. We want to make a plan to feel safer in our communities. As you see, it is complicated, but a full picture as we bring that together means we can do it and make decisions. I'm convinced that together we